So, Level 5 took a break from milking their cash cow Yokai Watch on the baby DS to do what they have in the past done best, put Square Enix to shame with a huge JRPG that outright rips off mechanics from a Nintendo game. It's a sequel to the sublime Studio Ghibli collaboration. Here's our review for NI NO KUNI II, Revenant Kingdom. The most important thing to note about NI NO KUNI II is that it is to JRPGs what Far Cry 4 was to open world FPS games. It's another one. While the original NI NO KUNI made a bold move in giving gamers what they'd been asking for years, it was pretty much a 3D Pokemon set in a huge fantasy world. The sequel plays it safe and sticks to the guidebook when it comes to the many tropes we've come to expect from a modern JRPG. In terms of story and setting, a lot has changed in the world of NI NO KUNI, as this game seems to take place long after the story of Oliver and Drippy. Evan is the new protagonist, and after a military coup which strips him of the right to take his place as King of Ding Dong Dell, he sets out to forge a new kingdom whose citizens can live happily ever after. While the opening sequence is utterly gripping and leaves a lot of potential for the game's cast of colourfully designed characters to develop strong, believable relationships, what follows is a series of forgettable scenes that are either mind-numbingly inconsequential or so focused on plot progression that we have to take it as a given that these characters are the best of friends. It feels like any of the game's huge cast of minor characters could have joined the main party, and it would not have had any bearing on the plot. Again, like many JRPGs, NI NO KUNI II's writing is needlessly drawn out, with no substance or character building. Until it actually warrants a deeper explanation, that is. No better example can be given than one of the most awkward attempts at a plot twist the world has ever seen. At one point in the game you take control of Roland, another main character, taking on a lone infiltration mission. Suddenly this character has all these weird magical gadgets, and it plays out in a way that suggests the audience should have known where these suddenly appeared from. Anyway, you're meant to believe that this character has betrayed everyone, and the entire explanation is dumped on the audience after the fact, in a string of cliches. Batu, the pirate who initially accused the would-be turncoat, says, "Arr, you scurvy dog." Leander, the intelligent, nerdy one, says, "I calculated that this was your plan." Only then is it revealed that the gadgets had been given by said nerdy guy. There are so many ways this could have been executed better, and all of them involve laying out the plan before it happens. Did they really believe that people would think one of the main characters would become a bad guy? It's so obvious that it wouldn't matter if this was revealed first, in order to include some much needed character development instead. For example, Batu is the one that discovers that Roland is seemingly betraying the good guys, and outright calls for his banishment. This could have driven a wedge between the two characters, with Batu feeling ashamed that he didn't figure out the plan and apologising in a later scene. You know, like characters actually talking and bonding a little. Instead, the characters spend even more time regurgitating the plot, as if it weren't an overtly simplistic snooze fest. NI NO KUNI II almost entirely scraps the gameplay systems put in place in the original game, and includes many new systems of its own, starting with the combat, which is no longer turn-based. Any of the 6 characters can be controlled, and each one has a different combat style, though the basics remain the same regardless of who you play as. Each character has a nice array of special skills which consume MP gained from landing hits, and MP can also be used for each character's long-range weapon at any time. Helping out in combat are Higgledies, the game's incredibly cute minions that can be created and leveled up alongside the main characters. Each Higgledy has its own special abilities, and are also able to defend themselves a little in battle with miniature spears. Going back to the story for a second, these Higgledies are the mascots of the game, and at first seem like they're going to play a huge role in the events of the story. In the end though, they play no role whatsoever. Though they are adorable and add a lot of charm to the game, Simply having them as a near useless addition to the combat seems like a poor replacement for the familiars of the first game, which were never built up to be crucial to the story, but nevertheless were the entire basis of the gameplay and combat system. Now you may think that these higgledies were where Nintendo's Pikmin has influenced Ni no Kuni II, but that actually comes from a separate battle system where the main character Evan takes control of a small army in a more tactical view. Up to 4 units can join, which fall into several categories with a rock paper scissors style setup. The idea is to press the shoulder buttons to rotate the units around you, so as to attack the opposing army with the best units. Again, units have different special abilities like an airstrike or the ability to create a siege tower, and they can all level up to become more powerful by defeating enemies. Now that's a lot of different gameplay systems to get to grips with, so naturally there's one overarching system that ties them all together: kingdom building. This is introduced early in the game and eventually plays a role in pretty much every gameplay element in Ni no Kuni II. Specialised buildings can be built using King's Guilders, a currency which is gradually earned for your kingdom while you're off doing other things, and these buildings then employ citizens you've recruited through completing side quests. Further King's Guilders are spent researching anything from improved experience for your army to new crafting recipes for weapons and armour. A lot of your kingdom's buildings are used solely for gathering resources, of which there are an insane amount of different types and uses for. Almost every loot item in the game can be acquired either this way or by exploring or fighting, and this is possibly the biggest double-edged sword of Ni no Kuni II. On one hand, it's nice to feel like any item you need can be found with ease if you know where to look. In fact, the original Ni no Kuni suffered from some incredibly rare loot drops that slowed the game to a crawl on occasion. On the other hand, loot in Ni no Kuni II is thrown at the player in such abundance that none of it feels special, and exploration is utterly unrewarding. There are plenty of side quests to be done, which, as said, will usually reward you with new citizens who will work at your kingdom. These are another missed opportunity to create some character development, as every single one of these will have you trekking somewhere, either for a simple fetch quest or a single battle. None of these quests contain intriguing stories or memorable characters, and when you end up in one of Ni no Kuni II's many side dungeons scattered around the world, you can really start to see the minimal effort put into some of these aspects of the game. The level design in all but the few main dungeons is completely devoid of imagination. These dungeons are made up of copy-pasted stretches of long corridors with 1 or 2 branching paths. There are about 3 styles of dungeon: cave, forest and temple, but beyond that a distinction between any of them cannot be made. And where is the music? It's dead silence in these dungeons, making them feel like placeholders for something level 5 was going to add in later. Despite the loot and kingdom building aspects feeling like they should form a solid core for all the game's systems, level 5 did not fully commit to that vision. The game trips over itself at every turn due almost entirely to one factor: leveling. There may be a few times in the game where you feel your characters are equally matched with the enemy. These make for some thrilling fights where everything at the player's disposal is being used to just about pull through, but it didn't happen because you researched that crucial upgrade back at the kingdom. It didn't happen because you crafted some badass weapon using some of the rarest loot you could get your hands on, or because you carefully studied the enemy's weaknesses and tailored your magic and equipment to hit them where it hurts. No, this happened because your characters were a certain level. If they were a few levels lower, no amount of planning would stop the enemy completely wiping out your party with one-hit kills. If the party were a few levels higher, well then you could just breeze through this fight blindfolded, pressing only one button. This applies to levelling up your armies too. They can steamroll any opposing force simply by being a higher level. Now, how does this affect the entire structure of a game, whereby all of its systems are supposed to be tied to this one thing, kingdom building? Well, it's all a giant waste of time. In the end, the kingdom upgrades are so arbitrary, so devoid of player agency, in that you can effortlessly wait a set amount of time to receive such an inconsequential bonus that the simple act of levelling up imbalances this game to the point of being boring. Having said all that, and pretty much tore apart a game from Level 5 who have made some of my favourite games, can I really say Ni no Kuni 2 is bad? All of the game's elements on their own are certainly competent, and the game as a whole is by no means bad, but that just makes it all the more disappointing because of the sheer potential of Ni no Kuni 2. In other areas like visuals and music, the game is utterly gorgeous, but these are not enough to hold together a shitstorm of game design ideas that are all fighting each other for relevance. Its shallow gameplay and characters make Ni no Kuni 2 a truly passive experience, akin to a mobile game. It might hold your attention for a while, it might even have some fun moments, but none of them are truly affecting. Well, that was one of the hardest reviews I've ever had to do, and that's why it's taken so long. It may seem like I was being really hard on the game, but it's just because I'm such a big fan of Level 5. Hopefully you enjoyed that review anyway, and I'll see you on the next video. Now back to playing Yakuza 6.